Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And today on this episode, we're going to talk about relationship boundaries and expectations. And we're going to dip our toe into this topic today because the reality is this is multi-dimensional, multi-layered. There's dynamics at play with your dynamic, your history, their dynamic, their history. And while it's really complex, I have noticed some common themes with my one-on-one clients this week. So I wanted to bring it to you because we're besties and I want to give you all the goodies. So let's just go ahead and just dive in. And so if you're new here, P.S., my name is Claire. I am a relationship coach and I love helping overachieving, high-performing girlies who are climbing the corporate ladder. You've got multiple clients or businesses, you're in school, you're an academic, or you have a PhD, or any of those pieces that are so amazing. You can also be a stay-at-home mom who has left those things or who has chosen to do the hardest job in the world, which is to be a mom. And at the same time, you are struggling with anxiety in your relationship. You are overthinking, you are second guessing, you're doubting yourself. If that is you, then welcome to the community and welcome to the club. And also, if you are enjoying this episode, which is going to be all about boundaries and expectations, but any of the other episodes, hitting the 5-star review is so helpful. I love to talk to this camera, but the reality is I feel like I'm just yelling into a void. And you're on the other side of the earbud. And the way that I just get to know that you're liking it is that you hit the high five or hit a high five by hitting the 5 stars. So thanks for doing that. And yeah, let's dive in. So I really see this as a spectrum when it comes to boundaries, and I'll just speak specifically to what I've seen with my clients this week and also just what I've experienced in myself. And so I see this kind of as a spectrum where maybe you're in a relationship and you are doing a lot in the relationship. You are giving your all, you are extending yourself, and you are feeling unsatisfied. You are feeling like there's not a lot of effort on their part, or somehow it just feels unfair. The other side of the spectrum is maybe there's been fights or like things that have happened, like little irks, and it's hurt your feelings, but you don't want to say anything because in my mind it was like, well, we only have this one weekend together until next weekend. I don't want to rock the boat, and just like, why bring it up? All of those are great signs that this episode's for you. So let's talk about boundaries. And the big thing that I notice with people is that, especially my clients, is that they have not had experience, or they don't prioritize people around them in their inner world, in their inner circle, that have strong boundaries. And here's the thing that I'll share around strong boundaries, because your girl didn't used to have them. I'll just call myself out. I didn't used to have them. I was experiencing all those things. I was over-giving, over-delivering in relationship. I was not saying when things were really bothering me. I had to keep it quiet, keep it down, don't bring it up. And that was really problematic. That was when my relationships were really struggling the most. There was just not being honest with my boundaries. And fast forward to now, where I can tell you I love having rock solid boundaries. My life is so much simpler and so much more at peace and more calm because I have boundaries. And I just want to share that it's so important that when you prioritize people who have strong boundaries, it makes you better. So I have a good dear friend of mine, a girlfriend, and maybe one day I'll bring her on the podcast, but I call her the boundary queen. I don't know if she knows that, but maybe I've said it to her a couple times, but I call her the boundary queen. And I call her that because I've been friends with her and her husband for a few years now. We're all friends. And her and her partner have a big family. She's got 2 kids of her own. He's got 3. And the partner, his ex, is a very complicated person. I'm going to be very kind and just say she's very, very complicated and does not make things easy for the kids and him and my friend. And at the same time, I've never heard her talk badly about her, like ever. Like, as we've been friends, like she's always never blamed her and made this person wrong, but at the same time, like just kind of says it like it is. And I just freaking love her rock solid boundaries, not just with this ex, but like with her partner, because not surprisingly, he also has some issues with boundaries with his ex. Not like inappropriately, but like doesn't, they parent kind of the same and have pretty, not to say crappy boundaries. And also, my friend has really great boundaries with her kids and his kids, and I just respect her so freaking much. And I watch her interactions, I talk with her, I respect her parenting so much. And I love our friendship because I see what strength looks like in being in her energy and being in her circle. And this is also something that I don't think people realize that are working on getting better boundaries, is that when we don't see it modeled for us, this is what happens. And I'll give an example, just in my DMs, for example, and not Instagram, more TikTok. If you're listening from TikTok, I love you, but man. But what I've noticed is that when people experience a boundary, and I'm very clear that I have I don't think it's responsible for me to give relationship advice in the DMs. Straight up. That's just like a hard boundary that I have. And it's not because I don't care about these people or I don't care about you. It's because I do care. I don't want to give you a perspective that isn't thorough. I'm only hearing from your side. I don't have a full history. I don't know. And so what I've experienced in especially TikTok, man, this is like so rough over there, but first of all, they don't even say hi. So zero boundaries there. And then when I tell them like, hey, I can only give you just like this little bit, they lose it. And I don't take that personal because that's their issue with my boundary. And that has nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with their issues with boundaries. And so when people themselves struggle with boundaries, when you struggle with boundaries, when you experience a boundary, it can be really jarring. It can, if you're not used to it, it can feel really like blunt, and not in a rude way. It can just feel like, whoa. And I'll give another example of this. When years ago, when I was exploring personal development, getting into coaching, I had a coach, still have a coach, always have a coach. And I experienced her boundary, and it wasn't rude. That's also the key here. Boundaries don't have, they're not rude. It was very loving. It was very firm. And, she extended other ways that we could connect. But I will say it triggered the F out of me because I had never really experienced that. And that was because I was also struggling with my own boundaries. So this is all to say that you want to prioritize people around you that are working on their boundaries and getting stronger in their boundaries, because when we have boundaries, we feel secure. Security comes from boundaries. So if I am walking Murdoch, who's adorable, if you don't know him, look on my Instagram, I'm obsessed with him. But he feels safe when we're walking because he's in a harness, and I got him on a leash. And he knows that if there's another dog without a leash or whatever, there's like an unfriendly dog, I have got him in a harness. I'm going to pull him back. I'm going to step in front of him to protect him, because when boundaries are there, the leash is there, the harness is there for him to feel secure. So this is often like where people that don't have boundaries get this confused, is that the boundary isn't just to keep people out, it's actually to keep you safe, to help you feel secure. So again, if you're struggling with boundaries, that's where insecurity can kind of come from, and it has a huge impact. So the next thing that I think is really important that I've noticed is that, are you seeking inclusivity? And I'm a person of color. Obviously, I love inclusivity. I do recognize that I talk mostly about my relationship with it, which is a cis relationship, and I have cis women and cis relationships, but everybody's welcome here. But I'm not just talking about gender or LGBTQ inclusivity, but actually, are you exposed to people that fully accept you and make you feel included? And I notice that when we don't have those channels, we're not exposed to inclusivity where we can be fully accepted, we can be included in things, where there's a sense of community. I've made another podcast around isolation and loneliness. We have to be in environments where we are experiencing boundaries, where It's not just a free for all, because then we're just in the wild, wild west. Nobody feels safe. So it's important that you are in communities, that you're seeking inclusivity, where you can be accepted, people are accepted, and they're included, and you're included, so that you can start to experience boundaries in a healthy way. The next thing, again, that I've noticed with boundaries is you have to train your brain to recognize security. And just thinking about that coach, it was like so jarring, because she was so loving and just so clear with her boundary, that it was, and I respected her for it, that you have to train your brain to recognize that, oh, boundaries, this is being said or this is being done because it's actually to keep some level of integrity or to keep me safe. So training your brain to recognize security can look like, okay, well, they said not this day for the date. And what does that, when's the next time that we can do it? Are they doing it to protect their brain space and their emotional capacity and their bandwidth? And I think this is also, training your brain to see the boundary and to recognize the security through other examples is really important in relationship, because when you start to understand that, oh, this person isn't, it's not they don't want to hang out with me in this book club. It's actually because they have a big work project. You start to learn that it's nothing personal. It has nothing to do with you or your value, but it has something to do with, oh wow, they're just saying no to meeting up to this book club because it doesn't work for them. It's nothing to do with me. And unironically, we can see this really easily most times in our friendships. But we have a hard time seeing in relationship. And I really believe it's because we're not doing enough repetitions. I have a fitness background. We're not doing enough repetitions to really get the strength to recognize that, oh, the boundary is security. There's guidelines, there's rules of engagement, so that I can train my brain, whether it's through osmosis, just being in that environment, or by watching the environment, that, oh, this is boundaries and guidelines and rules of interaction are so everybody feels safe. So these are just some overarching things I noticed with boundaries, and I'm realizing that I need a drink of water, and I don't have enough space to talk about expectations, so maybe that'll be another episode. And one thing I wanted to say, if you are wanting to be in an environment where you're experiencing boundaries, where you can be accepted and included and feel secure, then the Healing Girl Gang is underway. I'll put the link in the show notes. That is a free community for now. Until the time is up, so that you can get so much access to trainings, to courses, to me, for a limited time. So I'll put that in the show notes, and that could be the place where you start to learn from osmosis, through other people, through example, what healthy boundaries look like. All right, angels, I believe in you. Set those boundaries. You got this. Mwah.